Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 73 of 2020. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by mybookie.ag. And for a 200% sign-up bonus, please visit MyBookie and use the promo code ODDS200. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, sponsor the website and the podcast. We'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. If nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, we have a great show for you today, fully loaded. We have a lot of college football to talk about. We have Kyle Hunter coming on to discuss some of that. We have college basketball ramping up. I have some plays tonight, and Kyle Hunter is going to talk a little bit about that as well. He's already had a great start to the college basketball season. And, of course, we're going to get into our Refuse to Lose teaser and parlay for the week. So, really excited about this show. Before we do all that, I have a Big Ten preview ready for you for basketball. And pretty excited about college basketball. I love it. It's a great sport. The kids are playing this year, which is huge. That's what you want, right? And I think that there's going to be some huge games coming this weekend, and then conference play is just right around the corner. Conference play is starting earlier, as you know, because of all this COVID. They're hoping to, give a little wiggle room for teams that get it and have to quarantine for a number of days. So good thing that they're starting to figure out how to manage some of this stuff, because obviously football was a little bit of a mess. Basketball, there's less games, more like 20 to 25, maybe around 25 games when there used to be around 30. So that's an adjustment as well. So really happy that we're going to be getting into this. And the Big Ten is looking hot. They have some extremely great teams. As a matter of fact, just on KenPom themselves, they have like 4 teams in the top 12, I believe. 4 teams in the top 12. And, of course, I'm going by KenPom's top 12 because he's a lot more accurate than any AP rating could actually be in actual strength of these teams. But, really happy that the Big Ten's ramping up here. Going to start with the best team, in my opinion, in the Big Ten. Okay. Now, I disagree with KenPom on who's the best team in the Big Ten. As a matter of fact, KenPom only has them 5th in the Big Ten. I have them power rated 17 points better than the average team. And that is the Illinois Fighting Illini. 17 points better is my power rating on them. And throughout the year, I go by efficiency formulas that I use when I cap basketball. I look at other things, of course. Matchup metrics is the biggest thing probably for me. If you're going to beat KenPom or Bart Torvik, you want to look at both sites too. Team rankings has some great information. Pace information is important. But that's what I look at is how are these teams going to match up against each other? Who's going to control the pace of play? Who's going to play better defense? That sort of thing. But as far as Illinois, they return all 5 of their starters under Coach Brad Underwood. That's pretty awesome. Io DeSumo decided to come back and not go to the NBA draft. That was huge. They returned Trent Frazier. They returned Kipper Nichols. They returned Georgi Benzamashvili at power forward. And, of course, their big center, another year on him, stayed for college basketball and the Illini Coffee Cockburn. That is huge. Their special players are Iota Sunmu and Coffee Cockburn, maybe Trent Frazier. They ranked about 30th in recruiting in the nation. That's pretty good. Not terrible. Not great, but not terrible. They were 21-10 last year. ATS was 14-15-1. So they started out pretty hot, ATS, then they cooled off a little bit. But, you were pretty even, well, a little bit low because of the juice if you were betting on them last year. Their schedule is hard. They're facing Baylor and Duke in the non-conference. Now, as we know, Baylor is actually tonight. By the time you get this podcast, you'll know who won that one. And I'm not having a play on that because I was pretty high on Baylor last year, and they're just like Illinois, returning a ton of people, right? Baylor was the first or second best team last year. So the spread around 4.5 right now is right. I would look at it at 5.5. I'm going to wait on it and see what happens. So I'm going for Illinois tonight, and I hope they upset Baylor. But their schedule is hard. Their key losses, Andres Feliz is their key loss, and he was more of a role player. Best returning production next to Iowa, I think, and decent recruiting. Great team. Really excited for the Illini. The next team we're going to hit is Iowa, and Iowa, I have them 15.5 points better than the average team. They are my second best team. All right. The Iowa Hawkeyes are my second best team. They, on Ken Pom, are second best as well, but they're ranked 11th in the nation on Ken Pom. Their returning starters is 4. Fran McCaffrey's there, of course, as coach. Jordan Bohannon is back. I call him a starter. He was injured last year, but he's back. C.J. Frederick, Joe Weiskamp, Luca Garza, of course. And Jack Nungy has some experience, but he's back, and he'll be starting, I believe. Connor McCaffrey, of course, is a rotation. They rotate a ton of guys, but, Luca Garza is a beast. What do you know? Jordan Bohannon is clutch. Just great shooting. If you remember 2 years ago, him hitting all those game-winning shots. Not a ton to write home about for recruiting. They ranked 58th on 247 Sports for 2020 recruiting. But 20-11 last year, against the spread, they were darlings. 19-9-3. If you bet on Iowa a lot last year, you cashed. Their schedule's hard, though. They have North Carolina and Gonzaga. All right. Gonzaga. That is not good. So they definitely have it a little bit tough here in the non-conference. But I like this team a lot. I've always liked Iowa in basketball. I don't like their defense so much. They're a little bit weak, but since they play at a faster pace than a lot of other teams, that's just how it is. They sacrifice a little bit defense, more offensive oriented, right? Trying to get down on offense quicker. That happens. But definitely like the team. Their key loss, I have Ryan Kreiner from last year as their key loss. But, tons of upside. They could easily win the Big Ten championship regular season or Big Ten tournament. Now, I do have a play on one of these teams for premium subscribers, but there's not a lot out there, really. There's so much questions going on, so I only made one play so far, and it's in the Big Ten to win the Big Ten title. I've found a team with some value, but either way, just want to throw that out there. I don't like any odds to win the NCAA tournament at this point. They're all terrible odds, and I don't like the most of the prices on the odds to win the Big Ten. Just found one. Number 3, I have, believe it or not, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And I got to tell you, most people have them lower. Ken Pom has them 8th in the Big Ten, but ranked 30th. So there's 8 Big Ten teams in the top 30. Okay. So And actually, I misspoke. I said there's 4 in the top 12. There's 3 in the top 12, but there's a bunch of others at like third, like in the teens and stuff like that. So Rutgers, they return their coach, Steve Bikeel. Great job last year. Ron Harper at their point. Geo Baker, right? He's a beast. Montez Mathis, Caleb McConnell, Miles Johnson. They return all 5 of their starters. They have a new kid, well, an up-and-coming kid named Jacob Yum coming up there. Great player. Geo Baker and Montez Mathis and Ron Hopper are the heart and soul of this team. They have a top 40 recruit in Cliff Omarule, and I will mess up some names, obviously, in college basketball, so don't hold it against me. But last year, this team was 20-11. They're 18-10-2, another team that you made a ton of money on if you bet them. Their schedule is easy. They get Syracuse at home. Well, and they're the hardest team. Okay, they are like the hardest team that Rutgers is going to be facing. So good for them. They also have a key loss in Akwasi Yebo. He was a forward at 9.8 points per game, but the rest of the guys are studs. So really excited for Rutgers. I think they take a massive step forward. The next team I have is, what's funny about this? I haven't mentioned Michigan State yet. And they just beat Duke last night. So I actually moved them up ahead of my Badgers. Michigan State, they're both tied really at 14.5 points better than the average team. Their Ken Pom ranking when I wrote this was the 3rd best team in the Big Ten at 12. It's probably up a little bit from that since it's the next day and they played last night. Yeah, they're number 10. But, returning starters, I have 3.5 because I'm going to give 0.5 for transfers like Joey Hauser from Marquette. Joey Hauser is a fantastic player, possibly the best player on that team. Tom Izzo is one of the best coaches ever. They return starters Joshua Langford and Aaron Henry and Gabe Brown are 3 of them. Now, Rocket Watts played a ton last year, but he's new to the starting role, and same with Malik Hall. I think this team is very good, but they also have a downside. I think that Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman, those losses are going to hurt at some point. I do like how Michigan State is playing basketball right now, but they only beat Notre Dame by 10, and Notre Dame's really down this year. They beat Eastern Michigan by 15. They're not blowing anybody out, and Duke was kind of coming back at the end of that game. Duke's very young, of course, as you know, but 22-9 last year, 15-16 against the spread, so he didn't make money betting them, didn't lose a ton. Hard schedule, Duke and Virginia. Last year, they also lost Kenny Goins, Matt McQuaid, and Kyle Aaron. So, yeah, they lost some serious players last year, but it's Michigan State. They're always going to play tough. They're always going to play well. I'm kind of wondering why the recruiting hasn't been as good. If you look at Michigan State, they ranked 47th this year on 247 recruiting. So I find that a little bit weird. So the recruiting, they got this kid named Matty Sissoko. He is 6'9", 230 pounds, 4-star, and he's the 40th best recruit. And they only have the one other 4-star recruit there. So I just think it's a little low for Michigan State. Nothing I'm going to worry about at this point. But they are my 4th best team in the Big Ten as of right now. Of course, they have the upside to move all the way up to number 1, maybe 2. It's Michigan State. Number 5 is really tied with Michigan State. Wisconsin. A lot of people have Wisconsin higher. Ken Pom has them at 7th or 9th. They've kind of been bouncing around a little bit since they started. I think they're a little bit overrated there, okay? They have a lot of tough players, not a ton of skill, just great role players to take care of the ball. They play good defense. They find open shots. They're just a great team. They play well together, but they can get really cold and miss a ton of shots too. I have them 14.5 better than the average. And like I said, Ken Pom has them first in the Big Ten. I disagree. But they return everybody pretty much. Brad Davidson, Demetric Trice, Aleem Ford, Nate Ravers, Micah Parter, Trevor Anderson's back. He was another guard. They transferred from Green Bay last year, but he got hurt last year. Micah Potter, great leader on this team, but he misses some shots. They got a nice 4-star recruit named Ben Carlson coming in. So he was really good. And I actually, for Wisconsin, like the recruiting class, top 30. I mean, how often are they top 30? They have this kid named Johnny Davis out of La Crosse that's actually really good. So really liking the recruits they finally got at Wisconsin. Maybe they can start making some bigger noise from the talent pool. Last year, 21-10, just like most of the other Big Ten teams. 15-13-3, maybe just at the brink of profitability. Medium schedule, Louisville and Marquette is who have the tougher ones from the non-conference. The key loss was Brevin Pritzel. I do worry about that because Pritzel brought them back in some games with some key threes. Someone's going to have to step up and make key threes, and Trice isn't that great of a shooter. We'll see if it can be one of the young kids like Davis, or maybe sophomore Tyler Wall. He's a good player too. So just a lot of kind of a little bit above average players, right, for the Big Ten. Not above average for college basketball. They're definitely much above average if you look at the 357 teams that there is this year in college basketball because they added some. But I'm somewhat optimistic for the Badgers. We'll see what happens. Next team I have is Michigan, and they have some pretty big holes to fill. Xavier Simpson and John Teskey is gone. I mean, that's pretty huge, right? They got to fill that. Juwan Howard's back at coach. Ken Pom has them 6th at best in the Big Ten at 24th in the nation. I have them 13 points better than the average team, but also 6th in the Big Ten. They return about 3.5 starters because they got this grad transfer, Sean D. Brown. That's pretty good at point guard. He'll be playing there. Franz Wagner is back, and he'll be needing to step up big. He's kind of like a small forward, a tall, lanky small forward. His brother Mo was fantastic at Michigan. Isaiah Livers is back. Eli Brooks is back. Austin Davis at center. So, Michigan optimistic too. They got a good recruit, a top 40 guy in Hunter Dickinson, and they actually have a top 15 recruiting class, which is pretty awesome for Michigan. They've been recruiting a lot better there. They rank 14 actually. So I should have said top 14 recruiting class. Either way, 16, 14-1 ATS last year. 19-12 was their record. We were worried about them missing the tournament for a while. They ran a really bad stretch last year. Their schedule's easy. Their hardest game is North Carolina State in the non-conference. So good for them. They have an easy schedule to come into the Big Ten. They did lose a lot with John Teskey and Xavier Simpson, but Teskey couldn't play a full game. He had to rest a lot. He was a big guy. Xavier wasn't a great shooter, so I'm not super upset about that. And I like their promising recruiting class. If Franz Wagner steps up and leads this team like his brother Mo did, they can reach the top. So watch out for Michigan. Next team I have is Ohio State, and I have them 10.5 points better than the average team, so a drop from 13 to 10.5 here. 4th at 13th is what Ken Pom has them. Ken Pom's higher on them than me. They returned 2.5 starters because Justice Suing transferred from Cal, and he's actually a very good small forward there. Very good. And so a lot of upside with them, and maybe that's why Ken Pom's high on them. CJ Walker's back. Dwayne Washington's going to move into a starter role. Ibrahima Diallo is going to move into starting at center. EJ Liddell is kind of a role player there. Dwayne Washington and Kyle Young and Justice Suing are really their special players there. Top 45 recruiting class for them. Michi Johnson's a 4-star point guard that may play. So we'll see if he gets some, how much time he gets this year. 21-10 last year, 19-12 against the spread. So they were really hot in the non-conference ATS, but they quieted off in the Big Ten. I remember that last year pretty well. Medium schedule, North Carolina and Notre Dame. Key losses, Caleb Wesson, Andre Wesson. So Andre Wesson was a beast. Caleb Weston was a beast last year. Okay. He really was. Andre was, he was okay. DJ Carton they lost and Luther Muhammad. So they lost some serious production in this team, but they're replacing it pretty well. But it's not enough for me to bring them higher than the top 7. Next team, Maryland. I have them 10 points better than the average team. 11th. KenPom only has them 11th in the Big Ten at 37th. So apparently there's 11 Big Ten teams in the top 37. They returned 3 returning starters. Mark Turgeon has a lot of work to do. Eric Ayala is starting point guard this year. Daryl Morsel and Aaron Wiggins is back for the starters. Donta Scott's going to move into a starting role. Cole Mariel is going to start at center. They have this kid named Galen Smith that's an Alabama transfer that's going to be a role player. Their special player is Aaron Wiggins. The guy's a beast. But is he going to be enough to take them over? I don't know. I don't like their recruiting. 88th ranked this year. Pretty low. 24-7 last year. They're the second best team in the Big Ten last year, but they were only 14, 15-2. Their schedule's really easy. There's no ranked team that they play, So I like that. But they're losing Anthony Cowan and Jalen Smith was huge. Jalen Smith was a draft choice, I believe. I think Cowan was either a late draft pick or a walk-on. I can't remember. But either way, Maryland's lost a lot with those two. Those were some serious leaders. But Wiggins was also a leader, so I expect him to step it up. The next team I have is Purdue, 9 points better than the average team. And I believe Purdue is 9th in the Big Ten. KenPom has them 10th in the Big Ten at 32nd. They only have one really returning starter, one real return, and that's Travion Williams. And he was their best player last year at least. But a lot of guys are going to be stepping up into starting roles. Sasha Stefanovic, Isaiah Thompson at shooting guard, Brandon Newman around the forward, Aaron Wheeler at power forward. I guess Zach Edney and Sasha Stefanovic would be special players along with Travion Williams. The recruiting is pretty good. 3 guys ranked. They got 3 guys and they're in the top 32. Okay, they have this kid named Edney, Zach Edney, that's a 7'4" dude. He's their new Matt Harms. So we'll see how he turns out. I watched him play Clemson and he looked a little lost actually, but they were beating up on the small teams. 16-15 was their 2019 to 2020 ATS record. 13-16-2. You lost money if you bet Purdue last year. Their schedule's easy at least. Miami's the toughest game that they play. Maybe I guess Clemson was, right? Clemson was the toughest game. But either way, Miami's the next. But I guess Clemson's better than before, so I'll say medium easy. Key losses, Evan Brodeur, Matt Harms, and Jahad Proctor were some key losses for them. If you remember, Purdue was a decent defensive team, especially inside, but they couldn't hit a shot for the life of them. And once in a while, they'll screw you and you'll bet an under, and then they'll go nuts. Like 1 out of 5 games, it was drove me nuts last year. Purdue, Minnesota is number 10 here, and have 8.5 points better than the average team. KenPom rating is 9th at 31st. Okay, so KenPom's got them a little higher than Purdue and Maryland. Richard Pitino needs to step it up this year. Pretty good team. Marcus Carr, returning starter at point guard. He's been a beast for this team, a total leader. Gabe Kalsher at shooting guard. They have a new small forward, Isaiah Ilnin. They have Liam Robbins, which is a transfer at power forward from Drake. He's pretty good. And then, of course, Eric Curry is going to be their center here. They have also a good recruit named Jamal Mashburn. If you remember, his dad played in the NBA. Jamal Mashburn was a 4-star recruit. Their special players is definitely Marcus Carr. That's what I have. And we'll see who else kind of steps up there. There's pretty good players all over the board. So their recruiting ranks 50th on 247 Sports, but Mashburn's going to be probably the one that sticks out. 15-16 last year. They're disappointing last year. Daniel Turu was just, the stud last year that they lost to the NBA. But their against the spread was 17-13-1. They would play every team hard and always lose. Their games that were decided by like 3 points or less were like something like 1-9, something crazy like that last year. Okay, that's something to think about, because if they can do that again, they should win more of those. Medium easy is their schedule: Boston College and St. Louis. St. Louis is actually a pretty good team this year if you look on KenPom, and they have. Obviously the Big Ten schedule, but Boston College and St. Louis. So I called it medium easy. They lost Daniel Oturu and Peyton Willis. So pretty big to lose Oturu, but let's see if the other guys step up here. I do like Jamal Mashburn's potential. I like the transfers. They got Brandon Johnson from Western Michigan, both Gatch from Utah. He's going to be seeing a ton of playing time. And Liam Robbins, like I said earlier, from Drake. I just think Curry's going to carry this team. Next team is Indiana, 8 points better than the average team. 7th and KenPom. KenPom's is high on that. There's the AP's high in Indiana always before, but they never seem to just look good. They always seem to be at the bottom of the Big Ten barrel with all this hype. They're the hype team, Indiana. I have them, like I said, 11th in the Big Ten. Only 2 returning starters. Archie Miller's still there at coach. Al Durham and Trace Jackson Davis. Rob Finisse's got experience at shooting guard there. He'll be starting. Jerome Hunter at small forward and Race Thompson at power forward. Special players is Trace Jackson for sure. Trace Jackson Davis and Al Durham. Right? They have this kid, top 15 recruit named Christian Lander. So we'll see how well he does. He's a 5-star recruit, but that's just how Indiana is. They get 5-star guys, and we'll see if they pan out. Very good as usual recruiting, and that 5-star helped them move into the top 15 for recruiting class. 20-12 last year. They were 16-16 against the spread. They were terrible they were really good in the non-conference. Then they were terrible in the beginning of the Big Ten and started kind of coming up through the end. So they fooled a lot of people last year. Their schedule's medium hard: Florida State and Butler. Butler's a good team. They also have to play Michigan State, Illinois, and Iowa twice. So that's not good. That is a tough schedule right there. So the key losses: Devontae Green, Justin Smith, and Deron Davis. Indiana, is this the year you're going to do it? We'll see. Penn State is next at number 12. I have them 6 points better than the average team. KenPom also has them 12th at 62nd best team. That's a big jump. All the other Big Ten teams were in the 30s. Maryland at 11th was 37th and 62nd for Penn State. Pat Chambers was a great coach. 3 returning starters. Marion Jones at point guard. Shooting guard is going to be Miles Dredd, which was kind of a returning starter, but Isaiah Brockington is going to be playing a lot too. Jamari Wheeler at small forward. They have this kid named Seth Lundy at power forward and John Harrar. Sam Sessions, an Alabama Birmingham transfer, is going to be a kind of a key rotational guy, right? And obviously Miles Dredd and Isaiah Brockingham. Jamari Wheeler is the special player that I wrote down for Penn State, really. I suppose Marion Jones and Jamari Wheeler I should write down. I missed that one. But they're not going to be as good as last year because they lost Lamar Stevens and Mike Watkins. All right. Lamar Stevens and Mike Watkins were beasts. Just the heart and soul of this team. They only ranked 77th in recruiting. They were 21-10 last year. I loved Penn State last year, but losing those 2 guys is so tough. 16-14-1 against the spread, not too bad. Medium schedule versus Virginia Tech and Seton Hall this year. So good luck to Penn State, man. They're not projected in the tournament, but I hope they make it. The next team I have, number 13, is actually the Northwestern Wildcats, and they were the bottom of the barrel last year. 3 points I have them better than the average team. Ken Pom also has them 13th at 69th best in the nation. They only have they actually have 4 returning starters, and I guess you can call Anthony Gaines maybe a very inexperienced player. Boo Booye will be their point guard. Anthony Gaines as shooting guard. A.J. Turner is back at small forward. Miller Kopp at power forward, and Pete Nance at center. They also have some players like Ryan Young. He's going to play a lot. Boo Booye's special, this is a special kid, I think, in this team, and Miller Kopp. So, 83rd in ranking in recruiting. I mean, that's Northwestern. They're bad last year, 8 for 23. They're 12 for 19 against the spread last year. So, that's the story about them. Their schedule at least is easy. Providence and Boston College they get this year. And, I just not too many losses. Pat Spencer, I guess, was their key loss, but they were super young last year, one of the youngest teams, and they're going to take a step forward this year. That's the good news. It's just like, how far are they going to move forward? Are they going to make the NIT? I mean, we'll see. They were really bad to bet on last year, 12 and 19. If you bet on Northwestern, you got your butt kicked. Don't be that contrarian, right? Sometimes you can be overly contrarian. Another bad team, Nebraska. Power rated 1 point better than the average basketball team. 14th also on Ken Pom, 104th. 14th in the Big Ten on Ken Pom, 104th in the whole NCAA. 2 starters are returning, but they get a ton of transfers. This team is like made up of transfers this year. It's crazy. Fred Hoiberg's their coach, second year here. Teddy Allen's a JUCO transfer that's starting point guard. Delano Banton is a Western Kentucky transfer that's starting as shooting guard. Thorio Thorbajarnason, and I might have destroyed his name. He's back starting at small forward. Yvonne Oladrago is also back at power forward. And Lot Mayan is a young kid that's going to be starting at center. Not sure yet about this team. A lot of transfers are going to take some time to put it together, I think, especially in a COVID-type year. They got an interesting recruit. They ranked 63rd on 247, but they got this big guy from Chandler, Arizona named Eduardo Andre at 6'10". I'm interested to see him play a little bit, see what he can do. Their schedule is medium. They get Creighton, which is a very good team, one of the top 2 teams in the Big East, and Georgia Tech, which is one of the bottom feeders in the ACC. So medium schedule. Hanif Cheatham is who they lost, and Cam Mack. So those were their 2 best players last year they lost. So, lost a lot again, but a ton of transfers. So we'll see how Nebraska pans out. Well, I'm sure I missed something, and if you want, you can tweet me about that. And that's the Big Ten preview. I worked a long time on it. Hopefully you gained some information from it and got my thoughts on who's the best teams. So I'm excited for this Big Ten season. If you have any games you'd like me to break down that's in the Big Ten, please feel free to tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Now, without further ado, let's get into some college football and a little bit of basketball talk with Kyle Hunter. Now, I'm very happy to welcome back an amazing handicapper and friend of the show. You know him as Mr. Kyle Hunter from HunterSportsPicks.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks. Kyle, football is starting to simmer down a little bit right now, and college basketball is ramping up, man. How you feeling about this upcoming college basketball season?
Well, thanks for having me back again. It's always good to be on here. And, I feel like college basketball, the first week has actually gone a little better than most people would have expected. I mean, there's been some cancellations and some teams paused for a bit. But, we've gotten quite a bit of basketball, and I feel like it's going pretty good. It's a busy time of the year for me, to be honest, that when there's this many football games still going on and college basketball getting started, definitely a really busy time of the year. But as a sports fan, I love this time.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. It's more work on us, Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but it's the funnest time of year if you have both sports going. So that's really cool. And, love college basketball. Lots of stuff to talk about in college basketball. I always pick your brain. And I think we should start out with what's important. Like, how are people going to look at matchups not on neutral courts? We're getting a lot of neutral courts now, of course. You got the little tournaments going on in the beginning like we always do. But it's going to obviously be conference play soon, and there's going to be some visitors and some home teams. I'm wondering how to downgrade the home court advantage during COVID. And we saw a little bit of NBA, but I'm not sure if that correlates that well. I think it's going to affect the totals maybe. It's going to affect the ATS. How do you think it's going to affect everything?
Well, so far this year, like you said, we've seen a lot of games on neutral courts, and that definitely can skew things because neutral court games are usually lower scoring. So, the first day of college basketball, the over was just money. I mean, it was 50-something and 20-something. And then you get, tons of over bettors coming in. And then you have a lot of games on neutral courts, and now the under has done really well. The under's been very, very good for multiple days in a row. In fact, I'm going to give listeners a quick stat here. Neutral court games that are between game 1 and game 8 of the season, they are 55.5% to the under in the last 15 years if the total is 134 or higher. Now, if you followed college basketball, you know that 134 is not really a high number. So 134 or higher, 55.5%, and 140 or higher, 140 is about exactly an average total in college basketball. 56.3% the under on neutral courts. So definitely handicap that. If you're betting a neutral court game, you want to lean to the under unless there's something that really points you the other way. And so far this year, the neutral court games of 134 or higher, the under is 43 and 24. So the under's done really well this year. You're going to see line moves on this. So for all the listeners out there, if you want to bet the under on a neutral court game, you want to bet it early and not right before the game because it's going to come down. So I'll start with that, and then I'll say, as far as home court advantage, so far this year, home teams are just barely ahead of road teams' ATS, and I think that actually I'm kind of hoping that people bet on home teams based on them having a bit of an edge so far, because I think that the road teams would be the way I'd want to look here, because you're either going to have no fans in some of the places or a limited amount of fans. There's no way that home court advantage can be worth as much as it has been in the past. I do think that the odds makers know that, so we'll see how much that's adjusted for. Some of these smaller conferences, home court advantage is worth more than what it is in the bigger conferences. You go to the Missouri Valley or something like that, where home court advantage has been so huge in the past. It can't be as big as what it has been in the past. I would look to lean toward the road team. I think home court advantage, my guess is probably worth about half what it's been in previous seasons. So let's see what the odds makers do with this. I think it's hard to gauge from the very beginning of the season because, as you know, we've had a lot of these games here in the first game or two where a team's playing at home against a Division II opponent or a really weak opponent. They're laying big number and then they just blow them out. The teams have been really good at home laying big numbers in the first game or two because they're playing such a weak team. Over the years, that's been a good way to bet. But going forward, when they play in conference play, they're going to be playing teams that are much more similar to them. So I have to say I'm leaning toward wanting to bet road teams, especially once we get into conference play.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And I got to tell you, that first weekend, you said 50 and 20. Holy cow. That's I mean, you could have made your year just betting all over the first weekend. It's like, it's amazing.
And since then, now the under's done so well that there's been more unders than there have overs for the season. So it goes to show you how if there's a huge amount of overs or unders in any one day, and then it gets a lot of run on social media, some people talking about it over and over. Okay, well, we'll just bet the over. We'll just bet the under, whatever. It usually swings the other way. So you want to try not to overreact to one day, certainly.
Yeah, it's funny how you say now to bet your unders early. So it's changed over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I say that especially on those neutral court games. If it's not a neutral court game, don't necessarily think the under has to be early. But if it's a neutral site game, you bet the under early. And let's be honest, there's a lot of neutral court games this time of the year, so it's definitely pertinent right now.
Yeah, people are firing on those trends. So good call on that. I think I agree. I don't think that the adjustment is as big. I think inside of a building, it's more intimidating. And Cameron indoor, right? No fans there. Much different story is happening with the away team. At least in a college football team, it's outside. People are a little distracted. They're doing their little crowd dance, whatever they're doing. You can pull it together, and it can get noisy. But these basketball courts, you feel the energy coming off people. So I personally am thinking kind of towards the maybe 1 to 1.5 range just for a little bit of travel. But I can see some teams that you would think might get nervous in a place really step it up, man. So big dogs might be what you're looking for here in home when they're traveling. Of course, not neutral, but when they're actually away teams. And that I compare it to college football. I thought that the away team wasn't as much. I see some home field advantage for sure in football, but I'm not so sure about basketball, Kyle. So I think I agree with you there. That's some interesting stuff. Great trend there too. So looking at your knowledge of totals, Kyle, we all know you're the man. I've learned so much throughout the years listening to you about totals. I'd like to know a few teams that may have increased their tempo this year or some teams that may have slowed down, if you'd like to give us a few.
Sure. I think this is where there's a lot of value. I've had a pretty good start to the college basketball season. As I've said here before, I'm always totally honest and transparent. I don't like that so many people in the industry seem to never have losing days. It seems like all these guys, they're always on a run of, 10-1 or something like that. But I've had a good start to college basketball. I've had a terrible NFL season. Hopefully I can turn it around there. But, college basketball has been a good sport for me over the years, and totals is where I've made my money, certainly. Looking for these tempo changes is really important. First one I want to say, I'm going to start with bigger names first, and then go to the smaller ones. Xavier. Travis Steele using a Euro motion offense, and thinks the team is really upgraded as far as outside shooting. We're seeing a pretty big uptick in tempo for Xavier. I had the over there the other day between Xavier and Eastern Kentucky. That one was a really high-scoring game. Eastern Kentucky plays extremely fast, and they've done that for the last couple years. Xavier was happy to run with them there. I think if you watch Xavier and you find opposing teams who are at least not going to completely stall the game, I think you could find some overs with Xavier because they'll probably shoot a better percentage from three than they have in the past. And I think they will play faster as well. So that's the biggest name one that I have.
Xavier. That's the Big East right there. Always a great basketball school. Who else?
Okay, so some of the smaller ones under the radar. I love these under the radar ones. So Loyola Marymount. Johnson was an assistant at Marquette. Dunlap at Loyola Marymount had them in the bottom 5 in the nation in tempo the last couple seasons. So we're talking out of 350 some teams, they were bottom 5 in tempo. So they were playing extremely slow. I think Marymount finishes in the top 100 in tempo this year. So, if you're 90th in tempo compared to 352nd, it's going to be a big difference. So I'd watch for Loyola Marymount overs this season. So far, they've had some pretty high scoring games so far this year. So we'll see how long it takes the books to react there. I think that, in a team like Loyola Marymount and the next one I'm going to give you, when they're under the radar, it takes a little bit longer for the odds makers to adjust. The other one I'm going to say is Furman, the Paladins there from the SoCon. You look in the Southern Conference, there's some pretty good basketball played there. And you know this. You get Furman, Wofford, UNC Greensboro, East Tennessee State. They've been some pretty good teams in the last few seasons. Furman, in their first couple games this year, has played really fast. And I'm really want to keep a close eye on them because in the past they were a team that would average possession length was about 17 and a half seconds. So they're using 17 and a half seconds of the shot clock before they put up a shot usually. First couple games this year, they are at 13.3, which is 5th fastest in the country. So I want to see if Furman keeps this up or not. But for now, I think Furman overs would be a look.
Furman overs, and I'm wondering if they're trying to keep up with the Joneses in that conference. I don't know. Some of those like Samford, there's a few other ones that go pretty fast, I would think. Yeah. And it maybe just, some conferences lean towards playing faster. I suppose the ACC, and when we're talking about big conferences, play a little bit faster, and the Big Ten was playing slower, Yeah. I think what's funny is you look at these Big Ten tempos from last year, their tempos are really low because they're all playing each other, But when they play somebody else and they can score points because they're not usually a good team, you're going to see some overs. I found that pretty interesting, man. So, good stuff there, man. And so,
can I give you a couple slower ones then?
For sure, let's do it.
I feel like I wanted to start with faster, and let's go to the slower teams. I will say that everybody early in the season, I have to say this because I want listeners to know that, if you read, a lot of people try to look at press clippings, listen to beat writers, things like that. Every coach wants to say that they're going to play fast for the season. I mean, every year, it's a tradition year after year that Mick Cronin, who used to be the coach at Cincinnati, now at UCLA, every year he's going to play really fast, and they're going to play fast, and then they never do. They may play fast for one game or two, and then they just go back to the way that they've played before. Which, it's just kind of interesting because you can't just take a coach's word for it. You have to actually see that it's happened. Because some guys just like to say, "Oh, we're going to play with tempo," because I think that's what people want to hear, and I think that's what the kids want to hear. But some of them just don't do it. So, as far as the ones that are going to play slower, Air Force. So Joe Scott is the new coach here. Filipovich, who was there before, ran an average pay squad. Huge changes this year. Air Force is going to finish in the bottom 20 or 25 teams in the country in tempo. I've already played a couple unders with Air Force personally, and have won those. I think Air Force is going to be a really good under team for a while here because they're going to play so slow, the Princeton-style offense, using 20 seconds or more of the shot clock. You have to shoot really well to get over a total of, 138 or 140 or something, playing that slow. So I think Air Force could be a really good under team here for a while. A couple more. South Dakota, 16.8 seconds possession on average last year. This year, 18 seconds per possession. So they've been a little bit slower. I want to see if that continues because the Summit League is one of those that plays really fast. Like you said, you have some conferences that are faster and some that are slower. Summit League is usually really fast. So if you can find a team that plays slower in that conference, you might be able to find some unders. In general, the Summit League is pretty good for overs usually. And then the last one, Hofstra. Now, Joe Mahalik is the coach there. Justin Wright Foreman, Desiree Bowie, and Eli Pemberton have all been lost in the last couple seasons. Foreman from a couple years ago, and then Bowie and Pemberton out after last year. Hofstra doesn't have the firepower that they had a few years ago. They were a really good team there for a couple years. Now they're slowing down and playing zone defense, slowing the game down quite a bit. So Hofstra, a team that I would lean toward unders with here in the early going because they just don't have that same firepower.
All right. Well, great stuff there, man. We'll be looking for these teams and keeping them in our minds when we handicap these next slates of games. So great stuff, Kyle. Thank you for that. So now I ask you this every year, Kyle, and you've actually come up with some really great teams over the years that probably were going to be in the NCAA last year, and Utah State the year before, as you know, was fantastic. Which under the radar team is going to have a chance of making the big dance, or at least right now having some early value to play on, but something that we could look forward to?
Yeah, I think last year I said East Tennessee State, which that was going to be one that had a chance to win in the NCAA tournament, but we didn't get to see that. Obviously, bummer. Hopefully, we can get March Madness this year. Definitely my favorite time of the year as a sports fan. I think a team to look for this season is North Texas. I think I've probably talked about them with you before. I think both of us are pretty high on them in general. Mm-hmm. Grant McCasland is a really good coach. He has done a tremendous job everywhere he's gone. They were really unlucky on defense last year. If you look at Dribble Handoff, which is a pretty interesting new site that has they had North Texas ranked 42nd in defensive shot quality allowed last year. So their opponents were taking tough shots, but they finished 194th in effective field goal percentage defense. That's one of the biggest unlucky spreads that you could see, and they were still a pretty good team last year. I mean, they were good on offense, certainly. It would make you think their defense would be better this year. So I think North Texas will be a team to watch here. I don't know that they can make the big dance or make a big run in the big dance, but I do think they could be a good ATS team, and they would at least have a chance to win there in Conference USA. That's one that I like, and I want to give you a bonus one, a second one here. UNC Greensboro. I like Isaiah Miller as a veteran point guard. I think Wes Miller also is a really good coach for them. SoCon, a good conference, like I just said, underrated. They're certainly capable of winning a game in the tournament if they get in there. So two of them that I'm looking for here this year, North Texas and UNC Greensboro.
Oh, great stuff there. I do like North Texas, man, because the only one in front of them is Western Kentucky, really, right?
Right.
So that is if you can get anywhere better than plus 300 somewhere, and I know there's not a lot of lines out yet, and very few books have them. I haven't even seen any for the smaller conferences, but if you can find someone to win at least the regular season in their conference, that North Texas would be a great one, and great call. UNC Greensboro, I think they returned some production there, so loving it, Kyle. Well, man, a lot of basketball coming up. Make sure you listeners check out Kyle Hunter's. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks, and make sure you check out what he has to offer. He always gives a free play out too, so make sure you follow him. Let's move into a little college football then, Kyle, and lots of games getting canceled. I know I gave you a slate of them yesterday, and I think we lost we lost one of them for sure, and another one's got a big change in it. So we're going to do the best we can with it this week. Hopefully some of these teams stick out. But the one of them that was canceled is Kent State versus Miami, Ohio, and I was going to lay – I laid -2 with Kent State, and it moved to 3, and I still liked it at 3, but unfortunately just one of those line values that go away on you, and it's been happening pretty much all year. But, the COVID protocols, it's going to happen again later this week, and it's going to happen next week. Just hopefully it's not going to happen to too many of our games. But here's a game that I think you know a little bit about, Kyle. It's in the Sun Belt. Louisiana, Lafayette, and they like being called Louisiana, so I've been calling them Louisiana lately. I don't know why that is, but they're playing Appalachian State. App State is -2.5. The total in this game is 54. I would have thought, or most people would have thought, that this would have been the battle of the best two teams until Coastal Carolina came in and started destroying teams. I was high on Coastal Carolina, but I wasn't as high as I didn't put them where Louisiana was at the beginning of the season. I don't think anyone did, or where Appalachian State was. So Louisiana had that major upset against Iowa State, as you remember, and Appalachian State's just an all-around champion. They're the champion of the Sun Belt. What are your thoughts on this, baby?
This is a really good game, first of all, and if you look at the line here, I feel like it's important for us to point out, and I know we've talked about this in the past, you got to shop around for a good line, because if you like App State, you can get -2.5 easily. If you like Louisiana, you can get +3. So, 3 and 2.5, we shouldn't have to tell you that's a big difference. That game lands on 3 very often. So you definitely want to shop around for the best line in this one. The first thing I want to say, and I check this early on all the time, secretly I kind of really love meteorology. So when it comes to weather, I love looking at things like this. But rain in the forecast for this game, about 70 or 80% chance of rain. Not too much wind, but pretty rainy game here and 45 degrees. So not a fun, type of weather. But I would say that, Appalachian State, to me, they have kind of underachieved this year, right? I mean, because everybody thought that they could be a team that maybe would be undefeated at this point. And they've lost a couple times. They come into this game. They have to be at least a little bit disappointed because they're not even going to play in the title game in the Sun Belt. So it's already, set to be Coastal Carolina against Louisiana. So you could look at this two different ways. You could say, well, Louisiana is already going to be in the Sun Belt title game, so they wouldn't care as much about this game, and Appalachian State will. Or you could say Louisiana has lost 8 straight times against Appalachian State, and here's their chance to beat them. I think I lean toward the second there. I think Louisiana should be up for this game. Why would they not care about this game? They've been losing to this team. I think they've lost this team, 4 times in the last couple of years because they play them, in the regular season, and they've lost to them in the conference title game. Louisiana has to want this game pretty badly. I'd be stunned if they don't. Billy Napier, a really good coach for Louisiana. I think the side I would take here, if I had to take a side, would be Louisiana. I like what they have on offense, the really good balance. Regis and Mitchell, really good running backs. Lewis, a good quarterback, makes good decisions. App State, like I said, has been disappointing. Thomas is a good quarterback. Their best running back is hurt. Appalachian State will look to run the ball quite a bit. I think you probably see a fairly conservative game with rain and cool temperatures here. So I guess if I had to bet the total, I'd probably lean to the under. But, 51.5, that's right at where I made the number. So, to me here, Louisiana should be highly motivated. I don't have any big line value in this game, but if I was taking a side, I'd take Louisiana.
Yeah, App State's out of it, I believe, right? So they're Coastal's in it. So it's kind of like they get to at least beat their rival there, I guess. I think they're going to care about this. These teams played last year in the championship, and App State was up like 42 or something crazy, like 7 or 10. And Louisiana came back and got within like 7 points in the second half. And it was mostly in the fourth quarter. It was like, holy cow, are they going to come back and backdoor Appalachian State? They might have even got the cover. I can't remember. But either way, Louisiana, they don't like Appalachian State. And Appalachian State doesn't like Louisiana. These teams don't like each other. And Coastal Carolina aside, I think they're going to give some effort here. But I do, because of the weather, in my power ratings, I have App State about 1.5 points better. But Louisiana's had the hardest schedule, in my opinion. They faced Iowa State, and App State, they've had pretty much the Sun Belt mostly, and Louisiana just kind of caught teams at the wrong time. They had a better showing, I thought, versus Coastal than Appalachian State did. Funny about this, Louisiana has a better yards per play, positive 1.8 yards per play to Appalachian State's positive 1.4. So advantage Louisiana there. Yards per rush is almost identical at 5.7-ish for both teams. Quarterback rating and passing yards are about identical for these teams. But Louisiana has the slightly better D. In this rivalry game, limited fans, I got to tell you, I like Louisiana a little bit here. So I'm going to make it a free play. I actually like them at +3 if it gets to +3, and it is at +3 at some books. So you can take that at Appalachian State. So just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I'm going to lean that way too. I don't know that I'll bet this game. I do want to watch this game. I think this is a good game to watch, certainly. And to your point about strength of schedule, according to Sagarin, Louisiana has played the 93rd toughest schedule and Appalachian State 113th. So a decent amount of difference there. Appalachian State didn't look very good in their loss to Marshall and one of their harder games this year either. So, I don't know that Appalachian State can score too many points. I don't know that Louisiana will score that many points here either. So maybe a lean to the under. And yeah, you're right about last year's game. It was 45-38 was the final in that game. App State barely got the cover. In the regular season last year, it was 17-7. So
right.
Very different games, but App State has won 8 or 9 times in a row. So I think both teams will be highly motivated here.
All right, well, let's move on to the next game. We have a big change in this game. This was a listener request from Mr. Patrick Backhouse, and I was keying in on this game, Kyle. I was going to watch this game. I probably still will, but I might have to turn it off later because this spread moved. Liberty versus Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina was at 7. Now it's at like 10.5. And I think that was an hour ago. It could have moved again. As we all know, Liberty lost their quarterback this game. And I think that's huge because he tested positive for COVID. Now he's going to get a shot at getting another test. So I think in a couple of days he'll be able to take one. And if it was a negative, or if he is negative, he might be eligible to play. But a lot of questions here, Kyle. Any thoughts on this one?
Well, I would have had a lot more thoughts about this one before Malik Willis was expected to be out here. I do think that Willis means a ton to that team. He's a dual threat quarterback that the backup is a huge downgrade from him. I think he's worth a minimum of 7 points to the spread, probably more than that. his dual threat ability cannot be matched by anybody behind him. Liberty is going to run the football almost exclusively without him, but everybody knows the run's coming then, and they don't have a dynamic running quarterback, so it's going to be the running back that's going to be carrying it. I think that makes a really big difference. To be honest, I would have liked Liberty plus the points if Willis were playing and we could get, the 8 or 9 points, what it was at. Now we're seeing 10.5 or 11 across the board. I lean Coastal Carolina at that without Willis. I think that, Coastal probably wins this game fairly easily if Willis doesn't play. So as far as this game, I think Coastal Carolina is going to be able to move the ball on the ground. Grayson McCall is a really good quarterback for them as well. So, Coastal has been a very good team. They play slowly, a lot of lower scoring games. Liberty, I don't think their defense is very good. Liberty has played a really weak schedule this year. Their defensive stats look a lot better than what they actually are. So I expect Coastal to be able to move the ball on them pretty easily. Without Willis, it would be Coastal Carolina or pass.
All right. And I agree 100%. That's exactly how I look at it. I was going to bet Liberty possibly past the 7 here. And, both teams have just been awesome this year. I remember both teams they're fighting to play in the summer when they're canceling schedules and canceling the league and everything. They wanted to play because they knew they were good. And Liberty only has that one loss against NC State, and it was by 1 point. What a fighting team this is. And their defense has been stepping it up the last couple weeks, too. The power ratings, I have Coastal Carolina only at 2.5 points better. So that brings the spread to really like 4.5. Now, and that's why I was going to bet Liberty. But now, like you said, 7 points. I agree with that. It could be more than that because Malik Willis did everything for Liberty. And so right now the lean is to Coastal Carolina, but the fact that Malik Willis has a chance to play, I think we lay off it for a while. We kind of see what happens on Sunday. And right when there's the information comes out, if you're quick enough, you might be able to get a play. But I think at the 10 or 11, you're either going to make a play one way or you're going to make it at the other. And if it goes to 14, then you probably don't want to mess with it. If it goes back down to 7 because he's playing, 6.5 because he's playing, then you don't want to mess with that either. It's kind of one of those areas that's the value of Malik Willis. On the ground, Liberty's got a slight advantage at 5.6 yards per rush to Liberty's 5.2, or sorry, to Coastal's 5.2. Total yards per play, Liberty plus 1.8, Coastal 1.6. Liberty had a way easier schedule with the two FCS teams, Louisiana Monroe and FIU. So we got to remember that. I mean, they haven't been playing a lot of people. At least Coastal's been playing better teams in the Sun Belt, let's say, minus Campbell. But I had a strong lean to Liberty, and it's a shame that we couldn't have a play for Patrick here. So, Patrick, maybe I can tweet one out for you on a Saturday morning if we can find a good line on it. Let's move on to the next game then, Kyle. Florida versus Tennessee. Tennessee is home dogs of 17 points. The total on this game is 61.5. And I'll start here. I looked at this game. One major thing stuck out to me, Kyle. When was the last time Tennessee scored over 21 points? Well, it was their second game of the season on October 3rd against Missouri. And they have a terrible offense. I don't know what the hell happened to them. They started out okay but now we find out what South Carolina really is, right? They've scored a bunch against South Carolina and then a little bit against Missouri. But another thing sticks out to me is the freezing rain. It's going to be cold, probably like in the 40s, during game time, during kickoff. And that usually favors the defense a little bit. Florida can definitely put up some points when they want to, but they also have LSU to look forward to. I don't see Florida kind of just wanting to hang around in the fourth quarter when they're up by 20 points against this team, 15-20, was according to the spread at 17. Florida, even though LSU isn't as good, they still remember losing that game last year. They're going to want to put one on LSU and finish their season out. Florida's defense has gotten better the last few weeks because they got healthier. Tennessee's going to probably want to play slower in this game. They're not going to want to let Kyle Trask put up 70 points against them. That'd be embarrassing. It's in their home. Florida, for some reason, they don't play that well on the road. There hasn't been a ton of road games. I guess the neutral game against Georgia, you really shouldn't count, but they went to Vanderbilt. They only scored 37. They're just trying to get out of these stadiums. And Florida averages about 70 plays per game, which is about the same as Tennessee. Not blowing me away. The Gators are going to want to get the W and get out of Dodge. I like the under here. I think under 61.5 has some value, and I see many ways this could happen. I can see Florida looking to LSU only putting up 30 this game. I can see Tennessee playing slower. I can see some screw-ups by both teams maybe. I'm going to take the under. 2.5 star premium share play. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I kind of wish that maybe we should disagree a little bit more often. I feel like we agree quite a bit, but we'll probably find one of these that we disagree on. But I agree with you. My number was 60 on this, but I have to say, the weather doesn't look great for this one. And with any kind of bad weather, a chance of rain, a little bit of wind, this would definitely help the under. And like you said, Florida probably has a pretty good lead here, and I don't know that they want to keep scoring a ton of points late in this game because, like you said, they have some bigger games coming. It might pull some of the starters on offense. So, yeah, I think 61.5 is a lot of points. And Tennessee, like you said, their offense, not good. They turn it over a lot. I don't think Tennessee can consistently score many points on many teams. And Florida, like you said, their defense looked really bad at the beginning of the year. They've certainly improved of late.
Yep, 100%. Well, I'm glad you are on my side. I know we need to disagree, but it's not fun to disagree because I'd definitely rather have you agreeing with me. Next game here, Nebraska versus Purdue. Purdue -2. Total on this game, 61.5. This is a pretty cool game in the Big Ten. I mean, for the limited amount of games we get to see this year, both these teams kind of have a chip on their shoulder. They're feisty. These are feisty teams here, Kyle. I'm gonna let you start on this one.
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska has been a big disappointment. We thought that they'd be better than they have been. Their quarterback play has been really bad. I think my strongest lean in this game would have been the over. I do see some potential for a little bit of wind, nothing really bad here. This line has gone up some. We're seeing 61.5 right now. Purdue should be able to score on Nebraska. Purdue's offense, pretty good, really good wide receivers. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys that. Rondale Moore and Bell, really, really good. Nobody in the Big Ten has wide receivers like that. Hardly anybody in the country has receivers like that. I think Purdue moves the ball pretty well in this game. Purdue defense, not good. Nebraska likes to play quick. I lean over here, over 61.5. I don't think there's a ton of line value at 61.5. That would be my lean. As far as a side, I don't know what to do with this one on a side. I think that this one, let's see, I made this line Purdue -2. So I'm pretty much right at what the market is. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the side. I'm going to lean to the over, and I've got nothing on the side.
Well, I think I'm in your boat. Both these teams are above average in college football. I guess you'd call them average in the Big Ten, but the power ratings in this game has it at -2 too for me. So I exactly -2. So I guess we're seeing exactly the same. No value there, especially between the threes there. Contrary to what people may think, with the plays per game, you're looking at these teams and they're showing at 70-ish plays per games, but that doesn't tell the whole story here because both these teams lose the time of possession consistently. They're more like 26, 27 minutes per game when the other teams are at like 33 minutes per game, 34 minutes per game. They're beating them in time of possession. So, it's important to look at the seconds per play. Purdue is at 24 seconds per play, which is a little faster. And Nebraska's at 23.22 seconds per play. A smart man once told me that the average time of possession is at about 25.5 seconds per play, Kyle. And, this team gives up, both teams give up over 28 points. So I think this game has a very good chance of going over the total. And I played it at 59 and I got the opener, but I also like it to 63. So I'm going to make this my other free play here. Purdue -2. Not going to play that. Not going to play any side on that. Nebraska's score boxes are misleading all the time, but I do like it over 61.5 for 2 stars. So I think we agree with that one, man.
Yep, that's several agreements so far. So hopefully we're on the right sides.
All right, and what's funny is the fact that it is such a short spread. Very good chance for a shootout. So you might be sitting pretty at halftime there. Next game, I know a little bit about. The Indiana Hoosiers versus the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin's laying about, God, I saw 14 points here, Kyle. The total on this game is 45.5. You want to start this?
Yeah, Wisconsin would have been my bet here if Penix were healthy, and this line would have been minus 9.5 or something. I think Indiana was probably a bit overvalued by most people. It is kind of hard to lay 14.5 at some books with a total of 44.5. I don't want to get in the habit of laying that many points in a really low scoring game. At the same time, I don't want to take Indiana. I will say that Tuttle, Indiana's backup quarterback, was really highly recruited. He was actually, a higher recruit than was Penix. Now, we haven't really seen him to know if he's going to be very good. In his first game, he plays a really good team. So I think I could only bet Wisconsin here. I don't want to take the points with Indiana, but I hate laying 14 with that low of a total. So I hate to not say anything too strong on this one, but I can't bet it. What do you have here?
Well, I think we disagree on the spread a little bit. Finally, there's some disagreement. The Penix injury sucks. I just want to tell you that. I would rather see Wisconsin, my alma mater here, battle Indiana in full strength. It's one of those things you're just kind of like, it does you nothing to beat them now. And if they beat you still, it makes you look worse. It's right. On the backup quarterback. But it sucks it happened to them because I liked Indiana and I liked the Big Ten and I liked what they were doing this year and I was really high on them before the season. It feels good to be right. And then all of a sudden this happens and, you feel awful about it. But funny thing, Kyle, I only had Wisconsin about a 6-point favorite with Penix. So you would have bet it at 9.5. I wouldn't have. I would have leaned more to Indiana at that point. Now, the spread is telling me that Penix is worth quite a few points going from my numbers, maybe not quite yours, but I don't know a whole ton about Jake Tuttle, their backup. I think he's capable. He's 5 for 5 when he came in, I guess. I trust a lot in Tom Allen. I think they have a very crafty playbook. You've seen them play Ohio State. They have some misdirection stuff now. They frustrate teams. They always kind of played that role where, you're not expecting them. I think the Badgers are going to be ready for that, and they're going to have a big defense, their defense ready. And that's why you see that low total because Indiana's defense is very good. I mean, for Big Ten standards, they're very good. They shut down somebody to 3 last week. So that's important. I think they shut down Michigan State to 0, right? So on the other hand, the Badgers, they're probably reeling from the Northwestern game. They're probably pissed off, and they're going to get their 2 wide receivers back. And that is so important for them because the only weak spot really that Wisconsin had coming in was their wide receivers. They're very light, and then they lose their 2 best. The first half happens in Northwestern, penalties and fumbles, and it's spun out of control. So they're going to be ready this game. You're probably not going to see any turnovers from them or very few. One thing just of note, Badgers lost Rashad Wild Goose. He's going to be holding out for the NFL draft now. He was their best corner. So just something of note there, but the fact that they're facing a backup quarterback is not as of worry. What's funny about Indiana? Maybe you're a little bit more right. Their yards per play is only 5.3 on offense. They must be extremely efficient in the red zone. And they give up 5.5 on defense. So as good as Indiana is, they're somehow a net negative yards per play. Wisconsin's a 5.5 on offense after that debacle with Northwestern that kind of put their numbers down. But they have 4.4 on defense. So that's a positive 1.3 net against Indiana. So that's pretty big. I do think the spread's a little bit high. I think it should be 11, but I think the total's about right. So I unfortunately don't have any play on this one. So my official plays for this podcast in college are the over 61.5 for Nebraska Purdue, the under 61.5 for Florida Tennessee, and I gave out Louisiana under the 3, -2.5 against Appalachian State. Kyle, any other games you want to break down or any picks you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I wanted to give the listeners a free play here for this week in college football. As you look down the card, I do think that this is kind of a difficult slate of games. You know, we get to this point in the season, there's not as much value as what there is earlier in the season, I would say. But, you know, we're still going to try to find some value wherever we can find it. I'm going to take Rice and Marshall under 45.5. You know, this game I think would be low scoring even without bad weather. And now we see the weather forecast there. Looks like 10 or 15 miles per hour wind and a lot of rain. So as long as that stays that way, I think this could be a good under. I don't see Rice scoring many points on Marshall. At the same time, Marshall probably doesn't score as many if there's bad weather. So I see a low-scoring game here between Rice and Marshall. I'll take the under 45.5 in that one.
Ooh, that's a big under, but Marshall's defense is damn good. So I like what you're thinking there for sure. So, Kyle, where could our listeners find your great information and plays?
Go over to huntersportspicks.com. I just lowered the price for the college basketball season pass. Nice start to the season there. Have won both my top-rated plays and 9-6 overall in college hoops. So honestly, I've had a couple tough breaks. I've lost 2 games by half a point. So, you know, good start of the season. I've got a lot of closing line value there. I think there's going to be quite a few plays for me in college basketball early in the season. College football, too, you got to remember, you know, we're still going to have bowl season. We've got some conference title games coming up. So plenty of plays coming from me. And also sign up for the free picks newsletter at huntersportspicks.com if you haven't already. Send free plays there every weekend. We'll give some sharp money things like that, different systems and angles that I think are helpful to bettors. So free information there. And also if you sign up for that free picks newsletter and then register at huntersportspicks.com, you can get a free premium play of mine as well.
Awesome stuff, Kyle. Thanks so much for coming on, my man, and breaking down a few of these games. We don't have a good slate of great games this week, but I think we were able to find some value for our customers, man. Let's we'll reconvene for better odds sports betting on Friday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, tune into that video weekly there for better odds sports betting. If you don't already, always have a lot of fun doing that with Kiev. And thanks for having me on the show.
Let's move into some NFL Week 13 free plays. And obviously a lot's going on in the NFL. Lots of questions, lots of COVID, lots of injuries. So I have 2 sides for you and a massive lean coming up here. Of course, we're going to have our teaser and parlay. We're going to go with New England versus the LA Chargers at Pick'em. Total on this is 46. The Patriots somehow keep skating by. I mean, Cam Newton's overrated. This team's minus 0.4 yards per play, and they are almost at 500. They've had a lot of lucky bounces and calls go their way this year. The Patriots are riddled with injuries, including their best wide receiver, Julian Edelman, their best offensive lineman in Wynn, and their key running back in Rex Burkhead. All out, right? So the Chargers had some tough injuries, but they're starting to get healthier. Eckler's back now, and Bosa's now healthy. The thing about this is the Patriots, from a matchup standpoint, they're weak in the air, right? They allow 8 yards per pass, while the Chargers seem to toss the ball pretty well. That's their strength with Herbert throwing that ball. So I know the Chargers are a little weak against the run, but with Cam Newton at the helm, I think they're going to stack the box a little bit and try to slow him down. They should be able to do that. And I think they're going to finally get that big W that they've been looking for here at home. I like the Chargers here, and I hate betting on Anthony Lynn, especially against the Bill Belichick coaching legacy. But at the same time, this is a better team than the Patriots. I have to take them at home at Pick'em. 1.5 star premium shared play. Next game, Indianapolis is traveling to Houston. Houston's a 3-point dog, starting to get about to 3.5. The total on this is now 51. This is a perception play right here. The Texans scored a ton of points against the pathetic Lions defense on Thanksgiving, and the Colts gave up a ton of points against the Titans last week. No better time, in my opinion, to look at the total here. Even after last week's debacle, we must not forget the Colts are a top 5 defense, right? Top 5. They've had some hiccups against some really good teams, desperately good teams in Green Bay and in Tennessee the last couple of weeks, right? Green Bay game went overtime. Now we know the Texans defense, not that good at all. They still have J.J. Watt, but if you look the last 4 weeks, they held their teams to 25 or less points. I think their defense took a slight step forward there. J.J. Watt has them fired up. The big thing for me is the Will Fuller suspension. That's going to be a massive problem for the Texans. They're not going to be able to stretch the field there. And I think that's going to let the Colts play a little bit more press, a little bit more inside, a little bit. The safeties can cheat up a little bit, So I don't think there's going to be a lot of points coming from the Texans. Obviously, the spread's going Indianapolis's way. Indy has a good offense, but Phillip Rivers on the road is also something you got to worry about a little bit. The Colts, they're 12th in total offense. You'd think they'd be higher, but they're 12th, slightly above average. I give this total play out on Monday under 45 or 54.5, but it's all the way down to 51, but I still like it down to 49. I think there's many ways this game goes under, and this is the best play here. Indianapolis, Houston under 54.5, 2.5 star premium shared play.
Winning.
Next, we have our refuse to lose teaser. 6-6 for the year so far. Had a little bit of bad luck, but we're going to turn it around this week. And I like this teaser right here. The Packers down to 2.5, 6-point teaser with the Las Vegas Raiders to minus 1.5. I think the Raiders against the Jets, big get up spot here after getting their butts kicked at the Atlanta Falcons. Embarrassing wise, I'd hate to face the Raiders right now after that debacle. And unfortunately, the Jets are going to have to. So we're going to like that for 2-star premium shared play. Now it's time for the bow to the gambling gods parlay. It's 2-8 so far for the season, but we're going to shoot big once again. We're going to go in the NCAA. Buffalo should win straight up minus 404. They're playing a down Ohio team. We're also going to go with the Wisconsin Badgers, finally throwing them in, minus 565 against a quarterback-less Indiana team. As you know, Michael Penix is injured. Illinois, we're going to do a spread bet, plus 13.5 against Iowa. I think that's just too many points for a pretty good Illinois team. And Rutgers, plus 10.5. It's around 10.5 right now. And they're playing home against Penn State. I think they're going to cover that. Penn State isn't that good of a team this year, as you've seen. We're also going to put the NFL Vikings, Minnesota Vikings against the Jaguars, minus 492. Jaguars announced starter Mike Glennon this week, so that definitely helps that one. So this one pays 5.5 to 1. And so best of luck with that. Just use your fun money on the parlays.
Show me the money!
And now it is time for
The Sharp Side of the Force.
The Sharp Side of the Force is brought to you by uwager.eu. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit uwager and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Sharp College. All right. As of Wednesday afternoon, sharp money on Air Force minus 10 to minus 11.5 at Utah State. 53% of the tickets on Air Force, 94% of the money. Sharp money on Oklahoma State minus 1 to minus 2.5, 66% of the tickets, and 99% of the money. Sharp money on Purdue minus 1 to minus 2, hosting Nebraska, 44% of the tickets, and 78% of the money. Sharp money on Penn State minus 9 to minus 11 at Rutgers, 45% of the tickets, and 92% of the money. Sharp money at Troy at South Alabama, minus 1.5 to minus 4.5, 53% of the tickets, and 98% of the money. Sharp money on Oregon minus 10 to minus 12 at Cal, 66% of the tickets and 90% of the money. Sharp money on Kentucky, minus 11, hosting South Carolina, 50% of the tickets and 88% of the money. Sharp totals. Toledo versus Northern Illinois, under 59.5 to 55, 50% of the tickets and 80% of the money on the under. Sharp money on the Indiana versus Wisconsin, under 50.5 to 45.5, 73% of the tickets and 92% of the money. Dual action. Sharp money on Maryland versus Michigan, over 59, 93% of the tickets and 96% of the money. Some dual action there. Sharp money on Vanderbilt versus Georgia, over 51.5, 55% of the tickets and 85% of the money. Sharp money on South Carolina versus Kentucky, under 49 to 47.5, 32% tickets and 82% of the money. Sharp money on Baylor versus Oklahoma, over 63, 5% of the tickets and 95% of the money. Sharp money on Hawaii versus San Jose State, over 55.5 to 58, 33% of the tickets and 93% of the money. Sharp NFL. Also of Wednesday afternoon, Vikings -9 and -10 hosting the Jaguars. 60% of the tickets on the Vikings and 85% of the money. The Mike Glennon effect. Sharp money on Titans -4 to -6 hosting Cleveland. 60% of the tickets on the Titans, 82% of the money. Sharp money on the Falcons +5 to +3 hosting the Saints. 45% of the tickets on the Falcons and 77% of the money. Sharp money on the Colts -2.5 to -3.5 at Houston. 69% of the tickets and 92% of the money on the Colts. Past the 3 there. Sharp money on Washington +10 down to +9 at the Steelers. 41% of the tickets on Washington and 68% of the money. That was the one I was talking about earlier. Washington's probably a play just because the Steelers have such a short week. Wednesday going to Monday. It's just never been done before. It might throw this team off, having a Wednesday game. Thursday games never have the following Sunday, so it's just kind of strange. So I might be a player on Washington, anything above +7. Sharp totals. Jaguars versus Vikings, under 52.5, 52% of the tickets on the under and 91% of the money. Sharp money on the Raiders versus Jets, under 48 to 47, 51% of the tickets on the under and 93% of the money. Sharp money on the Bengals versus Dolphins, under 42.5, 35% of the tickets and 77% of the money. My friends, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions for us, please tweet us at The Odds Breakers or check us out at the website, theoddsbreakers.com. Everyone have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy yourselves, enjoy the family, enjoy your friends, and go get some winners.